I've been doing a lot of Gotham videos as of late, including videos on the villains and a video about a possible cancel of season 6 and 7. But since I did the videos on the villains, I think I should probably make one on the heroes too. So that's what I did, and that's what we're doing right now. Starting off, of course, with Bruce Wayne. Gotham's Bruce Wayne is probably my favorite Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne is an important part of Batman, something a lot of adaptations like to ignore, thinking that Bruce Wayne is just a mask which, well, definitely can be the case at times. Bruce Wayne is still integral to the concept of Batman. I love seeing Bruce's journey and how he organically became Batman. It made you really see Batman from a whole new light. You really got why he dressed like a bat and fought bad guys. And it's not just because his parents were killed. Instead, the idea of being a hero was built off of that. It wasn't the sole reason, which is usually the case. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. There's, of course, more than just one way to write a good story, especially a good Batman story. There's multiple ways to write a good Batman story. But personally, I really enjoy this idea that maybe Bruce really has a lot of reasons to be a hero. Not just because his parents died, but everything that's ever happened in his life leading up to the point of him becoming Batman. Next character we're going to talk about is, of course, naturally James Gordon. While I liked James, I thought his storylines were very repetitive and was just being given love interest after love interest. And while I will say Lee, Barbara, Val, and Sofia all felt like real characters and weren't just based on love interest, instead had their own storylines and own plot lines. But I still thought it was very repetitive, and I thought each character didn't necessarily have to be a love interest for James. I thought him and Val could just been friends, or him and Sofia could have been partners. I don't understand why they had to be romantic. Also, after that, I think he is also been given way too much screen time. I think I would rather have half of the screen time given to Lucius Fox, since he's also a necessary support for Batman. And in my opinion, a more necessary support for Batman than even James Gordon. So I'm a little disappointed that his character was given so much time. But like I said, I really like Gordon. It's just that he was given way too much screen time over the other characters who I think needed it. Next is, speaking of Lee Thompkins herself. I really like Lee's character where she started and how she ended. But the middle area when she turned to a Robin Hood robbing banks and was making an enigma, I wasn't a fan. I thought it was very out of character for her, especially when she took that virus. I thought it was ridiculous. But while I didn't like that part of her, I thought she was great in the first two seasons, and I think she was great in the final season. I thought she was compassionate but not naive, which is usually a trait that a lot of heroes have. And I really enjoyed her whole empathy towards criminals. But it just didn't really work during the middle parts of the first two seasons in the last season. As when she became the Queen of the Narrows, I thought she became very out of character, especially when she stabbed Enigma. That was really weird to me. And I felt like her character just became Barbara Light, but not a good version like Barbara, more of an annoying version of Barbara. Personally, I really enjoy Lee Thompkins in the first two and final season, but the seasons 3 and 4 versions of her I thought were very, very bad. Next was Alfred Pennyworth. I thought he was a good support for Bruce, but at other points I thought he was unreasonable to Bruce, expecting way too much from him. I still really liked his whole father and son dynamic with Bruce. I just thought that his character at points was kind of unreasonable, and I really disliked it when he hit Bruce in the face. I actually did that more than once. I thought that was ridiculous. As, you know, you were being abusive for things I don't think you should, you should never hit your kid. You should never hit your kid. But slapping him across the face full force is just ridiculous. And I thought Alfred at many points was very unreasonable to Bruce and expecting way too much from him. While I say that, I still enjoy some of his moments with Bruce and even Selina. But at the end of the day, I would say this version of Alfred is definitely not my favorite, but I can tolerate him. Lucius Fox was fun as hell. He had great one-liners, great storylines, great everything. My only problem is that he wasn't given enough to do, which is why I think half of Gordon's screen time should have been given to Lucius, as he is a very big character in the Batman comics, but he wasn't really as big as I think he is in the comics as he was on the show. I am glad that in the final seasons he got a bigger role than he did in the first two, but still I think he should have had a much bigger role. Like, I think he should have appeared as a series regular for every season, and I think he should have been given a lot more screen time and a lot more storylines and a lot more plot points. Maybe even bring in his children. Like, I think Lucius Fox as a character on the show and in comics is amazing. That's why I'm just so upset that he wasn't given as much screen time as other characters like Gordon, Bullock, and Lee. Next up is Harvey Bullock, another character who I loved, who had great one-liners like Lucius, and I love his colorful commentary. While I do feel bad his character wasn't given much to do as much as Gordon at least, I am still happy with his jokes, and I feel like if you focus too much on Harvey, the specialness of his character wears off. Because I think the best thing about Harvey's character is that he only has like snips and pieces of his character here and there, which is interesting because he actually is the third most appeared character on the show after Penguin and Gordon. But even though that is the case, he only really appears in a handful of scenes every episode. And in every episode, I think he has some great one-liners, great commentary, and I think his character really like pops when he has a joke to say. Because it's always funny, while I think other characters sometimes have jokes that don't exactly land. But I think Harvey Bullock has like the best jokes ever on the show. Well, Victor Zsasz also has some really good ones too. But I think Bullock really, I think, like I said, he just pops when he has a joke. And I really do feel bad for his character didn't get as much screen time as Gordon. But either way, I feel like if he did, he wouldn't be as funny because then he would be making them all the time instead of having them sprinkled in 3 episodes. Renee Montoya and Crispius Allen I grouped together because of obvious reasons. I personally loved them both, and I thought they were wasted hard. I think they both had amazing potential, but they just disappeared. At least the actress who played Renee got to reprise her, well, different continuity, but still got to reprise her role on Batwoman. But either way, I think these two characters in this show, at least, not including her version of the character from Batwoman, who's a separate character technically, I feel like didn't get enough to do and just disappeared. I think they both had great potential and it just didn't happen. I think Renee and Gordon's respect for one another, but still having a dislike for one another, it was a really interesting idea, but it didn't go anywhere. Well, I would say Crispius wasn't given as much to do as Renee, which perhaps maybe I'm biased because I just like Renee more than Crispius in the comics, but I would still like to have seen them both have, more to do. Vanessa Harper. Last but not least, I really like Harper's little sprinkled moments in the last 2 seasons. I think she should have been given more to do, but I can't complain too much. And that's it. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed, and bye.